It's really important to talk about academic integrity in this institution because it's not only culturally specific, it's also institutionally specific. So we need to understand what it looks like here. Whenever I go into a classroom, I always ask students, how many of you have gone onto the TRU website, searched for policy 5-0, read it, and understood it?
Oh, Jack, what do we need rules for?
Yeah, the answer is always 0, which is fine because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to summarize what academic integrity looks like at TRU. According to policy Ed 5-0, there are 4 forms of academic dishonesty: cheating, academic misconduct, fabrication, and plagiarism. And I'm going to be focusing on plagiarism today. In terms of who makes decisions around academic integrity, TRU has an academic integrity committee, so it's not actually your instructor. The Office of Student Affairs also supports you throughout this process because it can be a little bit scary. Some of the possible sanctions include a written reprimand if it's your first offense, reduction of a grade, remedial sanctions, failure of a course, or suspension. So it can be pretty serious. What exactly is plagiarism? A lot of people think it's maybe just Control-C, Control-V, finding an essay on the internet and handing it in, but it's actually a little bit more in-depth than that. Plagiarism is using someone else's words, ideas, images, data, or theories, and claiming them as your own. If you're going out and finding other people's ideas and theories, that's great. It means you're doing research, but you just need to be able to cite it. Some students ask, can words and ideas actually be stolen? Ideas are this, non-tangible kind of thing. But yes, it's called intellectual property, and they are protected by copyright laws. There are a lot of common misconceptions out there about what plagiarism actually looks like. Some students think as long as you're putting the ideas in your own words, it's fine, you don't need to cite. It's actually still plagiarism. If you use material from books or from an article, yeah, you need to cite it. But anything on the internet, totally fine. Also not true, you also need to cite information from the internet. Some students think that if their instructor's done the assigned reading, they don't need to cite it. You actually still need to cite it or else it's plagiarism. Some students don't know that there's something called self-plagiarism. So if you happen to have the same topic for 2 different classes and you hand in the same paper, it's called self-plagiarism. So in order to really contextualize the information, I'm going to talk about some examples of what plagiarism looks like at Thompson Rivers University. We're going to start with the most obvious to the least obvious. Turning in your friend's paper, that's obviously plagiarism. Copying words or ideas from someone else and not giving credit. If you forget to put quotation marks around a quotation, giving incorrect information about the source of a quotation is also plagiarism. Changing words but keeping the same sentence structure when you're paraphrasing is also considered plagiarism, and it's something that I see a lot in the Writing Center. So if you have any questions around what proper paraphrasing looks like, you need to come to the Writing Center and talk to a tutor. If you take so much information from one single resource and put it in your paper, also plagiarism. Now that you're sufficiently terrified, I'm going to talk about some of the resources available to you as a student in order to understand how to avoid plagiarism. Most cases of plagiarism actually occur because students just don't understand what it looks like in this institution. So simply acknowledging that you're taking material from other sources appropriately will help you avoid plagiarism. You might have heard of words like MLA, APA, CSE. These are citation styles, and they provide the guidelines for avoiding plagiarism and citing your sources appropriately. I get students who are really nervous about plagiarism and so have this idea that they need to cite everything. That's not true. Some of the things that you do need to cite include quotations, paraphrases, so when you're taking somebody else's ideas and putting them in your own words, when you're summarizing somebody else's paper or ideas, whenever you use an idea that someone else has already expressed. If you think that you have an original idea, I hate to break it to you, but you probably don't. Someone else has already had it. Whenever you make specific reference to the work of another, even if you're not including direct quotes. Whenever someone else's work has been critical in developing your own ideas. What don't you need to cite? You don't need to cite something called common knowledge. Common knowledge sounds a little bit gray. So we actually break it down into 3 categories. We say that common knowledge is what your average person knows. And your average person is probably not a student at TRU. Your average person might be someone in downtown Kamloops who you walk up to and say, "Hey, what color is the sky?" Probably the answer will be blue. There's also 2 other categories, and that is cultural knowledge. So for example, most Canadians know Justin Trudeau is our Prime Minister. People from other countries might not know that. The 3rd category is discipline-specific knowledge. So if you're in a business class, you probably have a lot of information and terminology that other students in other disciplines don't know. If you do have a question about what is common knowledge, always check with your instructor. If you're feeling a little bit nervous and a little bit confused, there are a lot of resources available. Where can you get help and access resources at TRU? The TRU Writing Center. We have citation guides, resources, and tutors to help you explain the citation. You can take Student Success 1070, Performing to Academic Standards, which is just as fascinating as it sounds. I can say that because I teach the course. We talk about academic writing, we talk about avoiding plagiarism, and how to cite according to APA. You can visit the Language Learning Center if your first language is not English. Perhaps the best resource is the TRU Library. You can book an appointment with a librarian. They have hour-long academic integrity workshops throughout the semester. They provide guides on how to avoid plagiarism, and they can teach you about ref works to help you cite your information. You also have your instructor. Most instructors understand that it's a learning process. So if you go to them with a question, they're probably going to help you understand plagiarism and understand how to avoid it.
That's a good idea, Clyde. And I like your suggestion too, Alice. Now I know how to rewrite this.